our first question. Sir, tell us who you are and what's your question.
My name is Joe Hoff. I am a member of the Committee to Preserve the Finger Lakes and also the chairperson of the Cuca Citizens Against Hydrofracking. As a former educator, I'm concerned that the $400,000 that the Hammondsport School District, it's not Hammondsport, that the Watkins Glen School District will be receiving is a false economy. And I want to call back the attention that Jack Ossent had on his slide about economic impacts, where you may be gaining $2 billion over time from the gas industry, from the storage industry, but you'll be losing far more in terms of the economic benefits that we presently enjoy. Mr. Ossent, could you address that a little more fully?
Yes, thank you, Joe. Actually, John Schwartz is not the only economist to have taken that position. There was a study out in Bozeman, Montana, that shows that there's a boom and bust kind of economy that's affiliated with the gas industry coming in. And while for the initial years that industry is in town, there is an economic benefit to the surrounding businesses that support it. Over time, it was found that there's a more rapid decline, and in comparison to those areas that didn't bring in the gas industry, those areas were much better off over a longer period of time. So there's another economist by the name of Janet Barth, who's done extensive study in the same area and has also come to the same conclusion. I think that we see in an opportunity that's short-term sometimes as community, something that is very appealing because there's a lot of money that's being spread around as an incentive for the political structure within the town to sign on to, but there's not that long-term projection into the future that we're seeing develop over time. And I've lived in this area now for a long time and have been privy to seeing the progression of the tourism business, the winery business, the agriculture, the organic farming business, which is another a segment that's going to be deeply threatened if this industry comes into our region. Those things have developed gradually and over time have built up a tremendous base of support in terms of employment, and I'm afraid that if we allow this short-term kind of thinking to come in, it's going to jeopardize all of those longer kinds of benefits that this area is seeing.
Other panel members? Anyone else want to respond? Okay. A question?
Everybody's very shy here.
I can't believe it. Sir?
Yes, my name is Ray, and I live about a half mile from the proposed brine pit. And I work the night shift, and I head up 14A. And there's an existing storage facility. They store propane. And I can't tell you on any time frame when they do it, but there is a pipe that comes up, and from about a half a mile away from there, they must need to vent the propane and burn it. And with the windows rolled up in my car and the vent shut off, the gas fills it in to the point where I'm holding my breath until I pass by maybe another about half a mile. Will this facility have a pipe, and will they need to vent the gas should pressure build and burn it, releasing fumes into the surrounding area?
Panel member?
I'm not familiar with the specifics of this exact engineering, but it is normal for gas to be vented from storage facilities. It's one of the major sources of methane leakage that we identified associated with shale gas development. It's part of the way that they maintain pressures and keep them safely under control. Sometimes they vent it without burning it, which is worse from a greenhouse gas footprint. Sometimes they flare it, as you've described, which is creates other pollutants, other issues. Usually in relatively developed places like this, they don't like to flare it because people notice and complain, so they're more likely to just plain vent it, which is probably more dangerous and more damaging.
One of the things that I did notice was that they seem to only do it in the evening, because in the daytime when I go downtown to get things, I never see it flare. It's only at night, and I'm talking like after 9 p.m.
Yeah, industry is sensitive to things which look bad. They really are.
Yeah, my name is Joseph Campbell, and I'm one of the organizers of this event. And I just want to say that I did attend the energy session yesterday, and Bill Mueller made a huge point of the fact that gas and water don't mix. However, in reading the EIS, or the Environmental Impact Statement, they mention that as the brine comes up out of the salt cavern, it has to go through a separator, and there will be an active flare. Okay, so I think Mr. Shelley said something about there is some interaction between water and gas.
There's some slight solubility of propane and butane in water. Yes. It's not completely miscible, but it's not immiscible. They're not like oil and water that don't mix ever.
Sir.
Hi, my name is Lou Johns. I'm a resident of Lodi, New York, up Seneca Lake. I'm just curious, what's the current status of this project in terms of it going forward? What departments in the state of New York are involved with regulating it, and where should citizens sort of focus their attention on stopping it? Obviously, that's our goal, I think. Thanks.
Well, we're actually at the point where the supplemental generic environmental impact statement has been published on this project, and I would encourage everybody here to submit comments regarding their concerns to the DEC office in Region 8, which is located over in Avon, and the Lima, I guess it is, Lima, Avon area. And the project director's name is David Bimber, B-I-M-B-E-R, and you can address your concerns to him. I would encourage that for a couple of reasons. One, for those of you familiar with what's happened in the shale gas DGIS, there were 14,000 comments submitted to the DEC, and they have a legal responsibility to respond to those comments. The more technical and the more connected to legitimate concerns these comments are, the longer it will delay and give the area an opportunity to both organize and understand this project even more than it has up to this point in time. And for you that have just started to understand this project, it's no wonder, because Energy has not come forward, although it's been given several opportunities in the past to come and be more transparent on what's going on, until last night. And I think that the organizers of this event tonight really deserve a tremendous amount of credit because of them driving that process.
Hi, I'm Sandy Podelka, and I'm from Ithaca, where I'm a member of ROUSE, the Marcellus Accountability Project, and also ShaleShock. And I'm just learning about this, so please excuse me if I say something stupid. So I understand there's going to be this huge brine pond, and I'm a little concerned about the effects of that on wildlife and what they might do to fence it off, or what's required to prevent problems, wildlife getting into the brine pond. And I'm thinking back to the SGEIS and the rules in New York State, and they're not, when you're doing a gas well, you're not allowed to have the brine that comes out during the production phase in open pits. That's one of the rules, I believe, in New York State. That has to go in tanks on site, and there must be some reasons for that. I'm wondering kind of what the thinking is to allow a brine pit for a project like this, but not for all these wells in the state. Does anybody have a clue sort of why that would be different?
I know they're putting a big fence around the entire perimeter of the pond, and I can't recall how tall that is. That's one piece that I'm familiar with.
I'll say I was there last night, and the Energy folks we asked that question of the folks in Energy, and we're told that no creatures can be near it because it's too toxic. I was with some of my students who asked, well, if it's salt water like that, can we go fishing in it? One of the students grew up on the ocean and said, well, maybe we could put some bluefish in there and fish. And the guy said, oh, no, you wouldn't want any animals around it. So I don't know what they expect to do with birds, but I imagine it would be pretty
Next question.
dangerous.
I'm Phil Davis. I got a vineyard, little winery.
Here on the lake?
Yeah, up on the east side of Seneca. One of the things this gentleman last night mentioned was he said Texas Eastern used these wells back, I think he said like from 63 to 84. And I just wondered how they injected and harvested this gas without this big brine pond that they're proposing building now. Does anybody know that? I mean, if they were using it, they somehow had to...
Effectively, what they would do is whatever brine came up from the hole, they would give the U.S. Salt, and they would produce salt out of it.
Down the line.
And then whenever they needed brine to put back down, they would buy it from U.S. Salt.
Okay.
And the difficulty with what they were doing was U.S. Salt didn't like that arrangement because they couldn't process their brine or could give them brine whenever Temco wanted it.
I see.
And I think one of the other things that your question brings to mind is that the casings that are in those caverns go back to that period of time. And for people that have been studying casing around old shafts, there certainly needs to be more transparency from Inergy, how the pressure testing around those caverns, what has happened, because one of the difficulties we're finding in foiling for that information, there's several people in the audience I know that have attempted to get the pressurized information on the integrity of these caverns, and they're saying that it's a proprietary information. But I think really it's not proprietary as much as it should be open to public transparency on the pressure gradients and how well these caverns can contain what they're proposed to contain.
Right. One other thing I wanted to address.
It's a second question.
Yeah, it's a second question.
It is.
Yeah.
Just go around back to Kate, and you'll be all right.
Oh.
That's what I announced.
Okay. Louise Wilkins.
Sorry.
I live in Watkins Glen, and I can see the railroad tracks out my back window. And what I want to know is if there's an explosion, how would they clean it up? And if we have to evacuate, where would we go to? Would there be a meeting site? When I went to Oswego State, if there was a problem with the nuclear plant, we all had to go to Syracuse. So what would we do? I don't know if this panel would know the answer to that.
I'm having trouble hearing the question up here. I don't know.
It was where would the evacuation site be?
Is there any safety plan for
Yeah, and how would you clean up if there was an explosion? How would they clean that up?
Technically, they should have an emergency response plan for that facility that's coordinated with the county emergency response agency and probably Watkins Glen Fire Department, et cetera. Whether they do or not yet, we don't know because they're not actually doing anything there.
What I recall hearing from Peter Mantius is that usually it's considered a 2 to 3 mile evacuation radius around an LP gas site, and that is completely would include the village of Watkins Glen.
But would it be up to us to decide where we go, or is there a meeting spot? Or nobody knows yet? Okay, thank you.
I'm Kate Bartholomew. I'm chair of the Schuyler County Environmental Management Council, and forgive me, Michael, but this isn't really a question, it's a correction. Seeker is not exactly an easy concept to get around, but I felt compelled to correct my esteemed friend up there that really the EIS is not publicly available for comment yet. Some of us have foiled the draft EIS that Inergy has submitted for the DEC to consider. Okay, we've... okay. And then my other esteemed colleague is telling me to explain the acronyms so I don't have to pay $1 every time I use one. We filed a Freedom of Information Act request and gotten the draft EIS from the DEC before they've finished reviewing it. They have until April 28th to finish reviewing it. They have 45 days from submission, which was on March 15th, until April 28th to review it and either say, yes, it's complete, Energy now will release this for public comment and public hearings, or no, it's not complete, you've got to go back and do a little more here, do a little more there, and then we'll look it over and, you know, whatever. So we won't know until April 28th if it's done or if Energy's going to get, you know, told to go back and, you know, redo this and redo that. So sorry about that.
Thank you for the clarification.
My bad. I stand corrected, and I thank you for bringing that up, Kate. I think also, though, if you can think of some comments now to get out to DEC politically, it has some weight, even receiving some of those now, although they will be added to the EIS when it's more in line with their regulations.
Hello, I'm Bonnie Chalet with People for a Healthy Environment, and
where are you from, Bonnie?
Horseheads, New York. But I sailed on Seneca Lake. And I am very concerned with Energy saying that they're only going to use these 2 caverns and it's all safe and has nothing to do with Marcellus Shale. In some of my research into Energy, there is an indication that this will be used also for the propane that they're planning to use as a cleaner and safer way of fracking. Can you address that particular issue?
Yeah, I'll take a crack at that. The chances of propane becoming a frac fluid at least in the Marcellus and New York is probably very low at this time. The proponents of the process, it's one company, Gasstem, that owns the patents and so forth on the technology, thinks they're going to go whole hog and make 10,000 wells worth of frac propane here in New York, but several professional sources within the industry say it's probably never going to happen. It's just not economically possible for that to happen. It's also very, very dangerous. Liquid propane is a very high explosive vis-a-vis the videos we saw earlier. And there've already been at least one incident we know of in Alberta where just a couple of weeks ago, several Gasstem employees were among the 13 employees injured in a gas fracking operation in Canada. And so we know that it's not fail-proof, and we know there are going to be industrial accidents on a significant scale if they start doing fracking with propane. So Tony Ingraffia last night said, don't worry about it, it'll all blow over.
Welcome back.
Excuse me, we have a point of clarification here from someone else.
Sure.
Yeah, once again, this is a point of clarification, yes. and Jack once told me that it was 80 to 120,000 wells, not 10,000 wells that they're projecting in New York State.
Right, right.
Oh, that's correct, yeah.
All right, me again. Again, referring back to this program last night, that fellow was doing most of the talk, and he talked about this wood boiler system that they have to generate electricity, and it's carbon neutral footprint, throwing the word green around. I don't know how many people, also part of my career is 27 years of harvesting timber, so I'm somewhat familiar with the woods. And any place there is an industrial wood boiler or a pulp operation, the woods within 100 miles is decimated. They espouse their forestry benefits, which can be wonderful. You have a place to take care of all you have a market for low-grade, relatively low-value wood. But what happens is the next generation of valuable timber gets harvested for this chip operation to feed this machine. I just thought, given the audience that we have here, that doesn't seem to be getting any press, and they'll talk to you about how they're using foresters and.
I'm sorry, your question?
It's not a question. It's a point it's a point that I want these people to understand. That's another issue that should be addressed.
Thank you.
There you go.
I'm Kate Lamoureux, and I've grown up on Seneca Lake, and I live on the east side of the lake, about 5 miles out of Watkins Glen. I'm a retired teacher from this school, and in the late 1990s, we had 2 incidents in this building that were described to us in the press by geologists as frost quakes. It was a spring event. Supposedly the permafrost had gone lower. It always struck me as suspiciously relevant to the fact that we had gas caverns here. Do you think that a frostquake really existed? And if not, is there any possibility that there's movement under here that is going to jeopardize the storage facility?
Probably not. The salt's pretty deep, and the formations are fairly stable, and it's a fairly tectonically stable area. So chances of things happening, there could be, fissures and faults and other things in the salt that allow some leakage or escape of some of the gas product in storage if they're not careful with their geohydrology and stuff they're going to be doing. But chances of that happening are pretty low. I never heard of a frost quake, so I can't speak to that. What's a frost quake?
They were absolutely. I mean, my son was studying geology at the time, and neither he nor his professors had heard of it either.
My name is Ross Horowitz, and I'm a member of the Danby Gas Drilling Task Force. I have a very basic question about what I'm hearing tonight. My understanding is that if there's drilling in the Marcellus Shale, most of the gas that comes up is methane, and most of what they want to put underground here is propane. So who does the separation? Where would that happen? And how does it get here if this happens? And is Inergy involved with the separation? The reason for the question is I was told by people in Pennsylvania that all of the extraction companies are not involved with any subsequent processing. All they're involved with is getting it into pipelines.
Yeah, that's correct.
So how does this happen to get here?
Yeah, I can only answer part of that question, but the gas across the Marcellus varies in its composition. So if you look at northeastern Pennsylvania, the areas closest to us, it's almost pure methane. If you go to the southwest, south of Pittsburgh, it's much higher in propane, butane. It also has a lot of sulfide in it. And you move a little bit further to the south or west of there, and you get into oil that they're hydrofracking to get out. So as to where they'd be getting, if this really is to be a propane storage, then they have to be bringing it, I would think, from the southwestern part of the Marcellus. I must say that once they get it going, it doesn't seem like there's much to keep it from being a natural gas and methane storage facility instead. And I'd be suspicious that isn't at least partly in their minds.
Mm-hmm. There's also a good deal of discussion that they'll have a refinery capability need here because of the very fact that you're talking about. If there's no current refining in Pennsylvania, where's that going to be, and where's the most natural place to put such a facility than at the terminus of where all that product is, feedstock's coming in?
I'll go to the rear. I've got a follow-up.
Oh, I thank you very much.
I would just like to add one comment too, is that there's really no guarantee that the gas product that's going into those wells is sourced from the Marcellus. I think that we've seen the extensive network of pipelines that cross certainly the Finger Lakes, but are national and international in scope. And so if it's not coming from the Marcellus, it could easily be coming from other formations anywhere in the lower 48 or beyond.
For now.
My name's John Dahl, and I moved here. I chose to move here 11 years ago from New Jersey. I know what refineries look like. I moved away from them. I don't want to see them come back. That being said, my question is with the brine pond. I know last night I was told there couldn't be any major failures to it. The oil spills and the explosions in the Gulf show us what they tell us isn't true. What would be your expectations of a major failure to the brine pond, to the Seneca Lake, and the environment and the fish?
The initial impact probably within the first year it's going to be pretty great, but that impact's going to go down. And if you actually look at the amount of salt that will enter the lake, it's less than a 0.1%. So in the final analysis, you're going to see chloride levels go up maybe less than 1 ppm because the brine pond went in there. But at the very beginning, there'll be some impact.
You're just talking about one brine pond, which is really a pit.
That's right. That's all that they're proposing.
My follow-up question has to do with if there are other gases permitted in this storage facility, might the other gases pose even a greater threat to the local agriculture? And if they can't be controlled as to what's going into the storage facility, then perhaps that should involve a greater amount of the agricultural community to get involved here. Thank you.
Well, all of those gases are pretty explosive, and as Tom said, once you get the facility in, it has the potential to become a magnet for other industries which use the gas, such as fertilizer production and plastics and things like that.
Hi, my name's Lou Damiani, and I'm a longtime resident of Hector, New York, and also have a small winery on Seneca Lake. So very concerned. We're very dependent on tourism and the beauty of this land. But my question is, and maybe the panel up here isn't, I address it to everyone, where does the county legislature and the local town planning boards stand on these issues? And how do we go about helping to change their minds if they're on the wrong side of this issue? Or how do we get them out of office if they're really on the wrong side? And because we, as the last speaker said, we really all need to become activists, and none of us really want more work on our list. We all have a long, long list. But could you maybe address that? What do we do to slow this process down? We need to slow it down and understand it better. So what's your recommendations?
Well, I'll take a stab at that because one of the organizations I'm affiliated with sees that as one of the major focuses, public education being one of them, and then the second is to encourage town boards to pass restrictive ordinances and laws which deal with the root issue here, which is, of course, who gets to decide in the impact that an industry like this will have on a community. So answering your question about planning boards and local officials have been approached a long time ago on this proposal. Industry has a tradition of going in and lining up stakeholders that are the decision makers within a community, which is to say that most industries don't consider the large percentage of people living within an area to be the decision makers. I feel that speaking to power is like we're doing tonight. The real power is us. We've been told that the real power is a very small percentage of our populace, that we should talk power to them. I think we ought to turn the calculus on its head and say, you are the power. You are the people that elect the people that are on these boards or cause the decisions to be made to find those people acceptive. So I would urge all of you to be a participant in that process within your own locality, and you have to make your own decisions on how you're going to face that within your own localities. I don't think it's up to any of us on the panel to tell you how to do that. That's a unique situation politically within each one of your townships, and if you really care about this issue, that's where the action is.
I'd like to address the first part of the gentleman's question. Where does the county and where do the towns stand on this? Where the project's going to be put up in the town of Reading, we attended a planning board meeting early on in our experience with this issue, which was end of January, really. And we were told by the planning board chair that they were satisfied with everything that they had seen, and as far as they were concerned, they gave it the go-ahead. They were kind of mad that DEC took lead agency status away from them. I say it's probably a good thing. Slow the process down. I've spoken with the chair of the Schuyler County Legislature, and the official stance is that they are neutral on this project. However, having said that, there's a document dated October. There was an October 1st of 2009 planning board meeting, and there's a document that the Schuyler County Planning Commission recommended approval of this project back in 2009, so October 1st of 2009. I don't know who they answer to, but I assume it's probably the Schuyler County Legislature.
Are there further questions tonight?
Yes, except I have a further answer to that
Another
question.
clarification?
Yes, I attended the event at the Harbor Hotel, and there was a lawyer there, and I went up.
Could you identify yourself?
Oh, Jane Winters. Sorry, I
Where
live
do you
in
live?
Reading Center. I don't know how many miles. 1 mile, maybe at the most. But anyway, I asked the lawyer if there was anything that could be done, because the planning board chair said, you know, our codes, you know, we can't, if we tell them no, if we don't have a legal foot to stand on. And so I asked this lawyer about that, and he said, you can always do a moratorium. We know that works in New York so far, so that's an answer. Further clarification on the question about the about whether they're going to store natural gas, because we asked the vice president last night, and he quite frankly said yes. There are other empty salt mines, and you said something about one brine pit. If they use more, they have to create more brine pits. So my question is, because the thing that's heavy on my heart, and which didn't get talked about a lot tonight, is the truck traffic. The truck traffic. Now, I was told last night that there were going to be fewer trucks. If they're going to have fewer trucks, why do they need a truck depot? So I don't know if any of you guys have expertise around, you know, what kind of distillates are put into the, you're a scientist, what kind of distillates are put into the air because of diesel, you know, what comes off of diesel trucks, what kind of impact of going through Watkins Glen, which is kind of a pocket between hills, and how that's going to settle out. I don't know if you have an answer, but that's, you know, I'm not as concerned about blowing up, because as you pointed out, that's relatively rare occurrence, although it happens more with natural gas than with LP. So if they put natural gas. So the question's about the trucks.
Thank you.
Well, the Energy EIS has specifically stated that the estimated increase of about 4 truck trips per hour, there would be 4 truck trips each way. Because the gas, the product is being trucked in on trains. They're bringing it up on trains from the pipeline down south, and then they'll store it underground, and it'll be dispersed to wholesale outlets that actually sell the liquid propane to homeowners and businesses through truck traffic. So you're going to have a steady stream of trucks going in and out. It will somewhat increase the truck traffic coming in and out. Now, if they expand their business, that's going to be a lot more truck traffic probably. So who knows what's going to happen in the future, right? But even so, it's 4 trips each way times 16 hours of operation each day. So that's still a significant increase in truck traffic. And all that's going to go right down 14. It's all going to go right through Watkins. So we hope the street repair department doesn't run out of budget.
I would say that in this instance, and also in the instance of the Marcellus development, the whole life cycle analysis on what happens with energy, and I think Dr. Howarth could also possibly speak to this. Some of it is a pretty fuzzy science here in New York, too, because I don't think anything is quite certain about how extensive the number of truck trips are going to be. A lot of it depends on what the build-out is going to look like, and it may be, there's probably a range, but I think it's very hard to tell specifically what the numbers will be in many cases.
You might have noticed the ribbed water tanking trucks that have been going through Watkins Glen. I noticed the buzz on the internet that several people in Watkins Glen have been observing them more frequently, and apparently they're going up towards the Auburn POTW with frack water, the origin of which has not yet been determined. The build-out, as Karen mentioned, may be increasing the truck traffic incrementally over time, but it's unsure as to how the state is going to deal with the frack water that's generated. Are they going to approve, like in Pennsylvania, certain disposal facilities, publicly owned treatment works, or are they going to build additional ones? So that's one of the things in the building out of this industry which would definitely increase the number of trucks on the road and therefore raise the percentage of adverse truck accident occurring with a propane or other explosive vehicle carrying gas products.
I just wanted to get back to Mr. Damiani's question about what can we do. And the Keuka Citizens Against Hydrofracking were gracious enough to allow us to publish a special edition newsletter that went out to hundreds of people just about a month ago, a little less than a month ago. The last page in that newsletter was a take action suggestion sheet, which if you did sign in tonight, we can probably get that to you, but there should be some copies on the table up front still with sample letters that you can write to the town of Reading Planning Board, or you can modify that and use it to write to county legislatures. The other thing that you might want to consider is, even if you don't live in Schuyler County, this is a Finger Lakes region issue. There was a legislator here from Seneca County this evening who is very concerned about this project, and the folks in Yates County are as well. So don't hesitate to connect with them and let them know your concerns, and they can possibly put pressure on decision makers who can do something about this.
This will be our last question. Go ahead.
Okay, I'd just like to add to that as well.
Another clarification?
It's not just, I'm sorry, my name is Maura Stevens. I'm in Tioga County, and I'm a member of the Coalition to Protect New York and other groups, and I'm writing a book on this subject. I'd like to point out that it's not only a Finger Lakes issue or a state issue, it's really a national issue, and just last week, T. Boone Pickens wrote a bill, essentially, that was introduced in Congress called the Nat Gas Bill, and that is all tied into this. So it's we should also be talking to people in Washington. Thank you.
I'd like to just add to that, it's not only a national issue, it's an international issue. I was interviewed this morning by a reporter from India where they're working hard on hydrofracking. If there's a place that can't afford to do it in terms of the water needs and the inability to treat the waste, it's India. But there are also proposals in South Africa and Australia and France and in Poland. And I'm told, just for interest, that 2.5 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now on the weekend, 30,000 people marched through the streets of Paris demanding a moratorium on it in France.
Yeah.
The next question is the last question tonight.
Jeff Dombowski, and this is a speculative question. I guess a speculative answer will be required, but I think Karen said there are maybe 60 or 70 vacant, empty wells now. There are 21 that are in use, and I think 2 that are being proposed for storage now. And according to Mr. Moeller yesterday, I think he said the demand for propane increased 46% over the past 17 years, which is why we need this facility, because the demand is increasing. So would it not make sense, if the demand is increasing so much, and once they get established, and if we have 60 or 70 other empty caverns, that what we're worried about right now on this scale of what's just being proposed may actually be orders of magnitude in the future if we're looking at a 14-acre brine pond for 2 caverns, and in another 17 years, if the demand increases 46%. I mean, I think you know where I'm going with this. Do you think that's a reasonable expectation that we're looking at a lot more than what we're just looking at tonight?
Thank you.
It's not my field. I think it's a fair speculation to make. And I was, I guess, what I was alluding to, I think you picked up on.
Thank you very much. We had 15 questions tonight and 7 clarifications, which was significantly more than I heard last night. It's time to conclude the forum, and I thank you all for your questions and for adhering to the format. I'm very appreciative. Please don't forget to make a donation towards the cost of the forum. Thank you to our wonderful panel, Jack Osant, Karen Edelstein, John Hoffman, Thomas Shelley, Robert Howarth, and Yvonne Taylor. Good night. Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Good point.